Web Archives Researcher Skills and Tools Survey, WARCnet, is a collaborative project by researchers from Maynooth University, the British Library, the IIPC, the Bavarian State Library and the University of Siegen. The research team are all members of WARCnet. Several talks and activities at the WARCnet network meetings highlighted the need to examine the roles of skills, tools and knowledge for conducting web archive research. From the meetings, it soon became clear that web archiving and curation, as well as the use of the archived web, comes with its own set of social, cultural, geographical, legal, ethical, institutional and technical challenges. Moreover, the creation and use of web archives continually evolves due to the rapid advancements in internet, web and software technologies. Hence, this prompted further interest to investigate some of the effects of these challenges in line with skills, tools and knowledge. Consequently, the concept for the WARCnet project was realised. For the purpose of this study, we consider web archive research to be inclusive of web archiving and curation and the use of web archives and archived web content for research or other purposes. And so it is inclusive of the processes and activities throughout the web archiving lifecycle, from appraisal, selection, capture, storage, quality assurance, preservation to replay, access, use and reuse. The purpose of the WARCnet report was to identify and document the skills, tools and knowledge required to achieve a broad range of research goals within the web archiving lifecycle and to explore the challenges for participation in web archive research across communities of practice. In doing so, we further aim to offer an overview of the skills, tools and knowledge ecologies within web archive research, to explore the challenges for the creation and use of web archives across communities of practice, and to foster a discussion on the development of future training materials for the web archive research community. The methodology for the study entailed desk research, participation in WARCnet meeting discussions and an online questionnaire, which was circulated via social media and email from July until September 2021. The recruitment was targeted at librarians, archivists, curators, information managers, scholars, researchers, students, historians, etc. And the results are based on a final number of 44 participants. While the report discusses several dimensions, we simply don't have the time to delve into them all. So now I'm going to hand you over to Helena Byrne and Nicola Bingham, who will discuss the challenges with web archive research, and then to Katharina Schmid, who explores the software, tools and methods in web archive research through network analysis.
Thanks, Sharon. As you can see from this slide, there was 44 participants in this study who were aged between 18 and 64 years old. They were from North America, Europe and Asia. Participants self-identified with being at novice, intermediate and experienced levels for working with or using web archives, and there is an equal representation of participants who identified with being male and female. This may provide some indication that gender does not present itself as an obvious barrier in web archive research, in this study at least. Responses were grouped into two themes. So 30 participants were identified with working in a library, archive or web archive environment, while 14 participants who identified as being a scholar, academic, lecturer, postgrad PhD student or working in an IT web design environment. Initially, we thought it would be possible to align participants' positions with whether they were creators of web archives or users of web archives, but this was not the case. In fact, the boundaries were blurred as some respondents in web archiving community also indicate that they are users of web archives as part of their work, while some respondents from the scholarly community indicate that they are curators and creators of web archives for research purposes. Thus, the categorization of participants' positions was not as clear-cut as originally imagined, and we acknowledge that there is some overlap between these two communities. On this slide, you can see a list of the challenges that members of the library archive and web archive environment community responded with. I'll give you a moment to look through the different challenges identified by this community. So the study identifies multiple challenges which impact across the communities of practice. For example, a challenge in capturing dynamic web content often results in archival deficiencies, which may further manifest as inconsistent and incomplete archival copies for end users. In addition, a lack of resources and specialized skill sets may also affect the development of comprehensive documentation, which would facilitate the diversity of users who further have different levels of skills and experience with working with web archives. On this slide, you can see the list of challenges that members of the scholar, academic and lecturer and student or IT web design environment found when working with web archives. Again, I'll give you a moment to look through the different challenges identified by this community. And again, the issue of incompleteness was also the top challenge for this community. Missing assets or broken links on live websites are problematic for both web archivists and end users, particularly when the gaps are hard to document and explain to users. The production of comprehensive metadata and documentation for web archive collections is an enormous challenge for archiving institutions, as it is time-consuming, labour-intensive process exacerbated by the huge scale of the data. Less than complete metadata and documentation is problematic for the end user seeking to engage with collections. On this slide, you will see that many of the challenges with using web archives are shared across both communities. Challenges in learning new skills is just one example of this. And on the slide, you can see that it is the third one in both communities with the highest results. And the report, we highlighted how both communities would benefit from the provision of a collaborative communal training across full range of activities in the web archiving lifecycle. The study offers an overview of types of skills and knowledge web archive practitioners and web archive users had prior to working with web archives. The skills they developed while working with web archives and the challenges they faced working with this type of resource. We propose that this might be used as a starting point to foster discussions in developing effective training materials for the necessary skills and tools for working with web archives across the spectrum of creator, curator, technician, or user researcher. We further suggest that such training will also need to be benchmarked in a skills matrix, as it's very hard to develop and provide adequate training without a benchmark to measure against. We also find that the challenges experienced by the participants in the study do not become less with increasing experience and highlight the need for training across all levels of experience. We suggest that in order to develop targeted resources for both introductory and more advanced training, further research would be required to see how challenges shift with increasing experience across communities. And now I'm going to pass you over to Nicola.
Thanks, Helena. Challenges with legalities such as legal deposit, copyright and GDPR present barriers for both the web archiving and researcher user communities. Respondents from both groups discussed challenges for citing archived web content from legal deposit archives or archives with restrictive access. Participants who identified with the web archiving community mentioned challenges in providing access to archived web collections due to legislation, copyright, GDPR and embargoes. Challenges due to low response rates in acquiring permission from website owners are also mentioned for both the capture of sites as well as providing access outside of a physical building. Further highlighted is the fact that while legal deposit may allow for the collection of websites, it often doesn't effectively deal with the provision of access. For some institutions, access may only be provided on site, which makes them economically inaccessible, as noted by one respondent. This presents an area for more targeted research, as very little attention has been paid to the socio-economic factors which might influence barriers for entry and engagement with web archives. Participants from the academic community discussed challenges in using web archives due to legalities in terms of access, use, storage of the data. Other challenges include handling copyright protected data, as well as the inability to download data from some web archives. Challenges working on transnational collaborative projects are also found due to varying legal deposit laws across different countries, which affect how the data is accessed, used, and by whom. Moreover, challenges in sharing data from web archives or making it reusable run counter to current trends by funders who increasingly stipulate open access and open science frameworks for research and data outputs. We suggest that further discussion and collaboration is required to foster development in the application of research data management practices within legal deposit frameworks, open science frameworks, and web archive research environments. As a starting point, there would be some benefit in providing introductory training courses regarding non-print digital legal deposit for novices from both communities. And with that, I'll hand over to Katharina.
Our survey also asked participants about the methods and tools they use for data collection and analysis. On the following slides, I would like to give you some insight into the responses we received, exploring the landscape of software, tools and methods used in web archive research. According to our survey, members from both groups use a variety of tools and methods for data collection, including crawling and screencast software, as well as manual downloads and custom scripts for automated downloads. The choice of tools is influenced by specific research questions and methodologies, for example when data is collected manually for close reading, and by changes in web technologies. In order to archive dynamic websites, for example, browser-based crawlers like Browsertrix complement traditional crawlers like wget, while archiving social media data requires platform-specific tools like Twark. In the network visualization, we can recognize differences between the two groups. In the responses from the library and archive environment, crawling software that produces data in the standard WARC format predominates. Heritrix and Conifer, formerly Web Recorder, are mentioned most frequently by this group. Tools for curating and managing web collections, as well as tools for digital forensics and preservation, are almost exclusively mentioned by members from the library and archive environment. On the other hand, tools for data extraction and transformation like web scrapers and software for optical character recognition are only mentioned by respondents from the scholarly, academic, IT or web design environment. Replay tools are also mentioned in the context of data collection, as they are used for quality control and selective web archiving, and sometimes include limited functionalities for capturing web data. Respondents from the scholarly, academic, IT or web design environment specifically mentioned the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine, which is publicly accessible and allows users to archive web pages via the Save Page Now feature. In the library and archive community, Open Wayback and Python Wayback are the two views that are mentioned most frequently. As Open Wayback is no longer under active development, users are recommended to switch to Python Wayback. Judging from the responses, this transition still seems to be ongoing. When it comes to tools for data analysis, the responses from the library and archive environment show a strong focus on tools for search and information retrieval. Web archiving institutions have been working to complement URL-based search with metadata and full-text search, and software like Apache Solr and Elasticsearch are part of this search infrastructure. In order to overcome the challenges posed by the large volume of data, respondents turn to tools for distributed processing such as Apache Hadoop or cloud infrastructures and services like Amazon Web Services. Other respondents use the Archives Unleashed toolkit, which allows users to generate smaller derivative datasets from the original WARC data and can be run in a distributed setup as well as in the cloud. Machine learning software is only once mentioned explicitly in the context of data analysis by a respondent from a library or archive environment. While some access interfaces have incorporated limited analytical functionalities, like the link graph in Solr Wayback or the trend analysis in the Shine interface, these services are not mentioned by respondents from a scholarly, academic, IT or web design environment. Instead, users seem to prefer standalone tools like Gephi and Vivo or Voyant tools that are not specific to web archive data. Respondents from the library, archive and web archive environment also have adopted tools from the digital humanities and social sciences like Gephi or IIPC. This may be a result of the exchange between staff at web archiving institutions and scholars from different disciplines that is promoted, among other things, through so-called GLAM labs. The potential of different labs initiatives at major web archiving institutions was especially highlighted in a dedicated panel at the 2021 IIPC Web Archiving Conference.
So the findings overall show that due to advances in internet, web and software technologies, there is a need for the continual evaluation of skills, tools and methods associated with the full web archiving lifecycle. As one respondent stated, web archiving is the present and future of archival work, but as technologies keep evolving, so too will the challenges. The findings also show the need for creators and user researchers to keep moving forward as collaborators to guide the next generation of web archive research.